Want to talk to you tonight about you. Over the last few weeks, I've read many of your thoughts on this Facebook page and in emails, and what you're talking about is the times we're in. And many of you express a degree of discouragement and stress that I haven't encountered before. Several of you say you're freaked out. You're in despair over what has happened to this nation. You refer to the carnage in Las Vegas, for example, and the unwillingness of politicians, especially Republicans and Trump, to even entertain the possibility of common sense gun laws to prevent the soaring numbers of mass killings in America. Or you talk about the inadequate response to Puerto Rico and Trump's scold. You said, "I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack." I mean, what an extraordinary thing to say. As if Puerto Rico is them and Trump is us, our budget. I'm sorry, the last time I looked, Puerto Rico was us. Or you point to the divisiveness of Trump's comments about NFL players who took the knee in protest over police brutality and racial discrimination, only to be told by Trump that they're disrespectful to the American flag and to America. Or you refer to Trump's decision to rescind the DACA program, which allowed 800,000 young people who came to this nation as infants but are not formally American citizens to remain here, and the Republican Congress's unwillingness so far to do anything to legalize those DACA kids. And you refer back to the horror of white supremacists marching in Charlottesville and Trump's saying they were no worse than those who protested against them, and Trump's pardoning of racist Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who had been convicted of criminal contempt for his illegal hardline tactics going after undocumented immigrants. And many of you talk about Trump's incendiary and unthinking comments toward North Korea that were cleared by nobody, getting us dangerously close to a nuclear conflagration. And on it goes, day after day, week after week. It is a horror show. Many of you are deeply stressed. You're worried about the future. You're wondering what's going to happen to us. I even hear from Republican voters who say they have never seen the nation this divided, led by somebody so unfit to be president, somebody with such a serious and obvious personality disorder. And many of you feel helpless. Now, first of all, I want to say that you are not alone. I can understand the sense that you're alone, but millions upon millions of Americans feel exactly the same as you do. In fact, I'd venture to say probably a majority. Second, you should know that this nation is really very strong. We have endured bad presidents who've been bad men with serious personality disorders. I am old enough, for example, to remember Richard Nixon. We got through it. Some might say we were even stronger than we were before. The third point I want to make is that your despair and stress are completely natural. It is inevitable that you and millions of others like you would feel stressed, in despair, anxious. Look, in difficult times, America naturally looks to its president as a source of consolation and kindness and compassion. Now, not all presidents have offered it, but until now, most have been able to rise above their own petty egos, their demands for attention and praise, to give the nation some reassurance. The best of our presidents, Lincoln, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Washington, they have helped us when we were stressed or shocked or faced terrible realities. The best of our presidents were like good parents. Trump is not a good parent. He doesn't even qualify as a bad parent. He's more like an abusive parent. I don't want to stretch the metaphor too far, but like an abusive parent, Trump is cruel, as he has been with the DACA young people and his statements about Mexicans and Muslims and minorities in America. And also, like an abusive parent, his cruelty is unpredictable, arbitrary. He's mercurial. One day he seems sane and halfway sensible, especially when he's reading from a teleprompter, and the next day he goes off the cuff, off a cliff, in hateful tweets and tantrums at his rallies. We don't know when the next blow is going to come. To some extent, it can be entertaining, but at this point, it is no longer entertaining. Like an abusive parent, here we have a malignant narcissist. Everything is always about him, as when he called the mayor of San Juan, Puerto Rico, a politically motivated ingrate. That's what he said to her. A politically motivated ingrate over the weekend. That's what he said. On Tuesday, yesterday, he suggested the island was exaggerating its problems. Exaggerating its problems when nearly all of Puerto Rico has been without electricity for 2 weeks and more than half the population has been without access to potable water. He spent much of his time on the island patting his administration on the back for how well it is handling everything, how well he is handling everything, when in fact the response has been horrific, irresponsible. As when he demands total loyalty and he blames the press for any bad story. As when he questions the patriotism of athletes who care deeply about America and want only to demonstrate where the nation is not meeting its ideals. And Trump, he takes it as a personal affront. And he demands praise, makes everyone who doesn't praise him into an enemy of the people. He calls them enemies of the people, journalists who do their jobs in pointing out where the administration has failed. Donald Trump is the nation's abusive parent, and we are feeling, many of us, if not most of us, abused, raw, helpless, and stressed, as abused children often do. The psychological toll is huge. But here's the fourth and final point I want to share with you. Your feelings of helplessness and stress are completely natural and understandable, but you do not have to be helpless. Donald Trump works for us. We do not work for him. He is not our parent. We are in charge. What I mean by that is that every hour you spend fighting what Donald Trump is doing to America, fighting for social justice, every hour you do that gives you more power. Every hour you join with others in indivisible groups or in grassroots politics, perhaps running yourself for office. Every hour you do that is another hour in which you and we take back this country for the people rather than for Donald Trump. The best way to fight helplessness and despair is to be an active citizen, a citizen activist. What is happening to this country is not just because of Donald Trump or even just because of the Republicans in Congress. It's also a legacy of citizen apathy and passivity that has allowed a demagogue to take charge, just as it has allowed big money to overwhelm our democracy. Where are we going to find the next leader? Well, let me just say this in conclusion. Stop waiting for the next leader. You are the leader you have been waiting for. Good night.